Absolutely.
No matter what, it's the child who is and the parents who are suffering at the end of the day. If there is little, there's less understanding. And I have been facing that all along. But thankfully, here in this country, I mean, the schools are very well equipped to sort of handle. And in fact, the school was the one in my case who spotted that Sarah could probably be struggling.
Yeah.
Was
That's
thinking all the
good.
time.
That's good to hear that schools can be so supportive also.
Yeah, it is true.
I'm just doing some last minute stuff on the side, so please
Okay.
don't
Do you
mind
want
it,
to?
okay?
Not at all, not at all.
Yeah. We are being live streamed already, Meghna?
Yeah.
So now we need to be careful. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm just checking if you're able to hear me and see me.
Hi, yes, we can hear you and see you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Suhasini. Hi, Sri Lakshmi.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. Yeah, hi, Suhasini.
Hi, Chitra. At
Yeah.
least we get to meet virtually.
Thank you so much, both of you, Sri Lakshmi and Suhasini, for joining. And
Thank
oh, I
you.
forgot to say thank you to Nikita and Sakshi for joining, agreeing to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
So we are already live streaming,
Mhm.
just so that on YouTube, just so that. Hi, Sri Lakshmi.
Hi, did you hear
Hi,
me?
hi. Yeah, nice to
Yeah,
meet you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Even though it's virtually.
Yeah, nice.
Hi, Sri Lakshmi.
Hi, Suhasini.
So Suhasini, as all of you know, will be moderating. Sri Lakshmi, Nikita, Sakshi, Rajeshwari. I think we
Hi, ma'am. Hi, Renuka. Hi, ma'am.
Hi Renuka, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll start in a few minutes, okay? Yeah. So you can stay muted
Okay.
because background noise will like others won't be able. Thank you. Hi Saidhanya.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
No issues. I hope you'll be keeping your video on, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
be
yeah.
keeping
No,
on.
just checking, okay?
Yeah. Just, are we gonna be starting now?
We'll take a couple more minutes because there's one more person who has to join, one more
Okay.
panelist. We'll just wait for him also to join and then.
Okay.
Hi everybody. We're just running a few minutes late. We're just waiting for the last panelist to join in. So, and once he joins in, we'll get started. Please excuse for the delay. Final panelist Gautam will be joining in a minute and we'll get started. Very, very sorry for this. Hello, everybody. So I'll just get started. Uh, uh, and to begin with, I just wanted to share a little bit about our organization. So it's called All Inclusive Foundation, and we are a very young infant in the space of organizations. And we're based in Bangalore, and we're 4 co-founders, one of whom is himself a person with ADHD, an adult with ADHD, and he's also an entrepreneur. The other 3 of us are, as we are Trimurtis, or 3 very young-minded women who are trying to make some difference. Dr. Bindya is a professional. She's a school psychologist, and she's also a trained special educator. And she is also a teach certified professional. And she has a lot of experience in implementing school inclusion. And the second person, Ashika Shetty, is a person with a wide experience of quite a few years in the child rights space. And she's also worked in the space of gender and sexuality. And both Bindya and Dr. Bindya and Ashika have been on the CWC committee in Bangalore Urban. And I'm the final quartet. My name is Chitra Paul. And my first and foremost identity is that of being a parent to a young man who's autistic, who's a non-speaking autistic. And yes, there are other roles, like I train special educators. I do a lot of awareness and advocacy work. And so the 4 of us got together and we started this small organization. And one of our visions is to create more inclusive societies, more inclusive communities. And we try not to focus on the individual. Like, we prefer to work on the environment, because unless the environment changes, the environment as in the people, the mindsets of people change, inclusion will just remain an illusion, will just remain a dream. So we try to work with people who surround and who support our neurodivergent and our marginalized community members. And so that is a little in brief about All Inclusive Foundation. And we also believe that the supports need to be in place across the lifespan. So we have various programs which we do, ranging from supporting parents with who have received diagnosis of, say, autism for their children, young children. We try to support families. And then we are also involved with school inclusion. We have a project running, which is a community school we support. And we also are trying to get into the space of supporting sexual well-being for our neurodivergent young friends. And of course, the last but not the least is employment. So we do something called as customized employment and supported employment, where we try to get employment for our young friends within the community and not in sheltered workshops. So this is in brief about All Inclusive Foundation. And we have previously had an episode of this As I See It around autism. And this particular session around ADHD has been a long time in planning. And finally, we are able to put it into action. So that is how this session has come about. And so Meghna, has Gautam joined in?
Just check.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
here.
there.
Okay. Hi, Gautam. Thank you so
Hi.
much for joining in.
Not at all.
So without much ado, I'll just get started. So we have tried to bring together the different stakeholders around individuals with ADHD, including them. So we strongly also believe in the need to listen to the lived experiences of individuals experiencing neurodivergence. And for this whole session, we have Suhasini Suresh, who is going to moderate the session. And we have 6 panelists. They will all be introducing themselves. We have professionals, we have individuals with the experience of, with the lived experience of ADHD, and we have professionals. So before I hand it over to Suhasini, I'm just going to give a brief intro about Suhasini. So Suhasini is a multifaceted woman. She's the CEO and founder of Zorb It Magically Unmess LLP, a company focused on creating innovative, eco-friendly cleaning solutions. With her expertise as a Six Sigma black belt and lean process expert, she has a track record of solving complex problems and creating transformative solutions. Caregiving has been a central part of Suhasini's life. For over a decade, she has been the primary caregiver for her father-in-law, who lives with Alzheimer's disease. She is also a mother to 2 children and to 2 dogs, one of whom, a cherished family member, passed away 3 years ago of old age. These experiences have given her an intimate understanding of the demands and emotional dynamics of caregiving across different conditions. Now, how is Suhasini connected with this? Well, Suhasini's journey with ADHD began about 3 years ago when her son, who's now 12, was diagnosed. Since then, she has been navigating the challenges and learning opportunities that come with supporting a loved one with ADHD. Her personal experiences have equipped her with a deep understanding of the complexities and complexities and rewards of this journey, something that adds a valuable perspective to today's discussion. Her ability to combine personal empathy with professional rigor makes Suhasini a thoughtful and engaging moderator. And so we are in excellent hands today. Please join me in welcoming her, and I hand it over to you now, Suhasini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chitra. Like I said, it makes me sound better than I am. Most days I'm just trying to get from one day to the next. I'm really grateful that you asked me to moderate this session and to meet with other people and hear about their lived experiences. I'll quickly lay down the agenda for today and then hand over to the panelists. We're going to go through first an introduction so we can listen to each of their panelists about their experience in their own words. And then we'll have questions for each panelist where they can answer targeted questions. We will also then have a space for audience questions, and we will, I don't know how much time we have, but we look at answering audience questions. And then there's a post-session poll that will be sent out, and we'll have a round of conclusion after that. So I don't want to take up too much space away from the panelists. I'll hand it over to each of them for their self-introduction. We'll start with the caregivers first. So we'll start with Sri Lakshmi first. Hi, Sri Lakshmi.
Hi. Good day, everyone. Um, I'm a mother of two. My son is 13, and I have a daughter who is 5. So my son is diagnosed with ADHD. It's about 3 years around that he got his diagnosis done. So I'm a homemaker. So I'll be interested to talk more about the questions that's going to come from Suhasini.
Thank you so much, Sri Lakshmi, for that introduction. We have very similar timelines. I see I too have a 5-year-old daughter. We'll move to Rajeshwari. Hi, Rajeshwari.
Hi. So my name is Rajeshwari, and I am a mother to a soon to be a 10-year-old. My daughter got diagnosed, so it's not been a complete diagnosis yet, but initial diagnosis just very recently. But it was the school that pointed out that, my daughter could be struggling. But somehow me, my husband, my family, we were sort of always thinking that she's just a pampered, little, naughty or playful sort of a child. And, that each child is different. Some children, take longer to sort of, do the same things that are expected of their age. So I'm glad that diagnosis happened. And apart from being I would say, a full-time mother to her, I work as a content consultant with her AI-based organization. Before that, I was a journalist. So one of the reasons why also I moved to a more structured sort of a work environment is so that it allows me space to and time to sort of care for my child. So I will end my introduction with that. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from everyone and learning from this session. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Rajeshwari. I'm sure it's a lot of plates you're juggling, and I'm looking forward to hearing from your experiences. We'll now listen to the adults who have who have been diagnosed with ADHD. Gautam, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, just a second. Hello, everybody. This is Gautam. I am from Tamil Nadu, currently in Bangalore. I have been working in the non-profit space for quite some time now. My last job was with this social enterprise incubator called Billgrow, working with climate change startups. Right now, I've taken a break. I had gotten through some script writing competition, so that was a interesting twist. And yeah, also I'm looking to launch something in the mental health space itself, looking to work with neurodivergent people first. Yeah, interesting times ahead. Looking forward to speaking to you all.
Thanks, Gautam. It really
Yeah.
sounds like you're on a very exciting journey, and very interested about that. We'll Sai Devi. Hi.
Hi, I'm Danya. Hello, everyone. I'm 25 years old. I graduated from MBBS last year. I am currently not working. I'm preparing for my MD entrance. I'm hoping to be a psychiatrist. Uh, and before this, for some reason, I always thought working with neurodivergent people, or, becoming a psychiatrist would be too personal, and that would be too challenging. But for some reason lately, I've been wanting to work with neurodivergent people and wanting to be a psychiatrist myself. Hopefully that will happen.
Wonderful, Sai Danya. I wish you all the best
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll speak with professionals who work in this space. We'll start with Dr. Nikita Nath. She's a mental health professional. I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor yet. I'm pursuing my PhD from Delhi University. Yeah, hopefully in 3 years, fingers crossed. My PhD is in inclusion of neurodivergent children in school spaces in Bangalore. I'm working as a child psychologist at Insight since 3 years now, and that's been where I have worked with individuals with ADHD, autism, global developmental delay, and all. And most of my clients, my children were having ADHD, so that's where I think my insights today would be coming for. My sibling has also been diagnosed with ADHD 1 year back, so I think I have little bit of caregiver perspective here to give here as well, and yeah, looking forward to talk to everyone here.
Thank you so much, Nikita. It's also very nice to hear a professional referring to saying your children. It gives a feeling of
Yeah,
them.
I confuse people all the time when I say my kids, so yeah.
Thank you. And the last panelist for today, if we could have Sakshi, who's an OT therapist, introduce herself, please.
Yeah, hi. So sorry about my background first because I'm just traveling back to my home. So yeah, my name is Sakshi. I am the occupational therapist and been there in this field since a decade now. And the main drive or a motive for me to be in the profession was my personal journey. Because I was attending therapies too back then, and that time I was not aware of these different diagnoses, etc. When I joined the college, although my diagnosis was very different, my journey was very different, but the struggle was very real. Like my parents have seen it all, the struggle when I used to cry in my speech sessions, and the small things which I was unable to do it at that point of time. And back then the awareness was also not there, so they were also was like, "Ki, what is wrong? What is happening? Why is she not able to pick it up, etc." So I think that struggle is there for all the parents as well when they are newly diagnosed with anything, any kind of difficulty. So that keeps me motivated and that keeps me going. So I am very, very, thankful for the opportunity and want to listen from everybody about how are they doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sakshi.
Yes.
I hope you have a safe drive while you're on call. Without any further ado, we'll get to the so-called meat of the conversation today. Again, I think there's a very good flow that All Inclusive Foundation has planned. We'll start with caregivers first. And this is for any of the caregivers you can answer. And one of the questions, the first questions we have is to just set context in terms of when was your child diagnosed with ADHD? What were the reasons that you felt the need to go in for the diagnosis? Rajeshwari or Sri Lakshmi, whoever you could answer. Or maybe I'll just start with this. Rajeshwari, would you like to go? You've already answered why you felt the need. So maybe I'll start with Sri Lakshmi. Sri Lakshmi, if you could just talk about when your child, we know about 3 years ago, but maybe what were the reasons you felt like you needed to go in for the diagnosis?
Yeah. So initially, it all started with the school stuffs, like, the writing part, and that eventually, started. So he had initial days of, not much interest on the writing. So when we had to force him writing, though we didn't force much, but still to an extent when we did it. And then we started getting resistance from him, and then eventually it started with his behaviors, like, getting not um, not on the so-called the typical expectations. So that's when we found the need. We felt okay. This is not just like it will go on a day or two or something like that. Then we went on to see our psychologist, that's Bindya, and based on her guidance, and then we went for a diagnosis 3 years back, and we got that done. That he's on the spectrum of ADHD.
I think I was on mute. Yes. Thank you so much, Sri Lakshmi. Anything else you wanted to share about the process of diagnosis? So apart from those specific reasons that the school reached out to you for, was there anything else that you?
No, the school didn't reach out, but we felt okay. It's time that we get the formal diagnosis done, and then we went to see the the professional who can do it. So one thing I want to give a peace of mind here is when we choosing the professionals for getting the this diagnosis done is very important, because that shouldn't put the child's morale down getting into the the assessment, because we had that experience, that the first diagnosis where we went, it was really we ourselves couldn't stand that, but we just can't, so we thought, okay, we first put our a research done, make ourselves well equipped, and then go to it. And the second assessment where we went is she's pretty good, and we are very much happy that it was really good that he didn't have any issues going on with the second, though initially said, but second time the second assessment it really went on much more better the first one. So that's very important for the parent to choose the person who's doing the assessment, do really well, understand what is the process, and then go ahead and do that.
Thank you so much, Sri Lakshmi, for that input. That was a very important point that you brought up. Rajeshwari, what has been your experience in parenting a child with ADHD?
I would say it's very challenging. And it's also sometimes you get surprised by the sheer creativity and the brilliance of a child, especially given her age. Sometimes I'm unable to understand. It's like, it's very surprising. The very next moment, you would be shocked to see her do something so immature-ish, right? So that has been sort of my initial challenge, was not able to understand these two sides of my child. And in our case, it was a school. There were a lot of complaints that started coming from school, that she has been unkind to another child, she has blurted out something, she has flung something at somebody in an emotional outburst. And we initially thought that, when the school thought perhaps it's because of the big change, because, moving from India to UK, she was missing her grandparents who were her primary caregivers. So that is how initially they thought probably she's trying to adjust. But later on, in terms of, writing mirror image letters, to, not able to concentrate in class, fidgeting, fussing, being very disruptive. So she was basically, in my daughter's case, she was pretty much exhibiting all the symptoms of not just inattentiveness, but also of hyperactivity. Like, generally we say girls are more demure and they're more this, right? And when she came in here, she was 7.5, but she was not able to sit, fussing around all the time. So even if you give her a word to write, she will take about 20 minutes to finish a word. I mean, a word, which is impossible to think. How can a child take? And it's not that she doesn't know the spelling of it, but somehow getting her to do that, it's a big problem. She will be sharpening her pencil. She will be looking for okay, this eraser is not working. I need another one, something of that sort. Always this. And she has this very dreamy disposition. But I also noticed that she can also hyper focus when she wants to. I'll come to that later. But this is what the initial struggles have been. Our days don't look the same. So one day it's a great day where we start off on a fine note. She's pretty much independently. She has dressed herself up. she has her breakfast, even though she doesn't eat very much, but still she's eaten. She hasn't created a lot of fuss. There has been less confrontation, and she's able to go to school on time. But there are many days where even getting her to wear her joggers, dress up warmly because it's a cold country, it's everything is a struggle, to the point that sometimes, like you end up getting upset and raising your voice. And if you have raised your voice, oh my God, hell breaks loose. She'll go to school and she says, I have the most horrible parents in the world. They are so strict with me. They shouted at me. They did that. And then there's a complaint from the school that, or not complaint, but there's a check-in that what happened at home. She was very upset, and all day she hasn't paid attention to her classes at all. So this has been like a typical day in our lives. So some days we have great days, and some days it's like, we really are at our wits' end. But now it's better with more understanding, and also now we know that she struggles. I think that knowledge itself, so it's less of a label, really. I don't like to label her, in that terms, because your human minds don't work that way. Our personalities are not to be labeled. But yes, having that knowledge that her her brain works, is wired differently, it really helps us. More than her, it helps us to be more understanding, to have more empathy, and to have more patience, really.
Absolutely, Rajeshwari. I so identify with, the unpredictability of every day. You don't know what kind of day you're going to be handed, and you don't know how that day is going to end. So I identify that very, very strongly. Sri Lakshmi, would you like to tell me about, what are some of the, um, we know the struggles of, but do you want to talk about your personal struggles with parenting with ADHD?
Yeah, sure. So the major struggle is like, dealing with people who do not understand and still living in the same roof. So that is one major struggle. So it's very hard to explain to everyone, and still, we have to go about it, and we don't have an option. So that is one struggle we are facing it. But what I see more is, like, as Rajesh was saying, it's every day is not the same, so it's all a learning every day. So that is one. Getting accommodated. Sorry, what do you say? Getting the people around you, where it has to be a day in and day out scenario. That's going to be that will be a very challenging thing, and that's one major struggle which we are facing.
I can imagine with everybody not being on the same page. It's not just a problem with parents of neurodivergent children. Even with neurotypical, we have the same issues. It just gets doubled, I'm sure. Any of
That's
any anything where you have appreciated, that your child with ADHD brings to the table, a particular strength, like Rajeshwari mentioned, the hyper focus. Is there anything that you've noticed that's a huge strength that your child has?
Yeah, so as that is one major thing, right? The hyper focus. So when the thing is really interesting, and it may not be interesting the next day, but at that moment, if it is interesting, that's going to be just like that. It's going to happen in just snap of a time. So for example, when he had his new chess class, there were some about 100 puzzles which he completed in few hours, which the teacher, the tutor asked him to finish it for the month long. But he just finished it a day and night, like, within few hours, the complete one, and then submitted. And now for the next, when they gave the next book, we are still, halfway through the book. So, that is something, like, when it is something new which we think we cannot crack it, that really happens to be a very easy thing for my son, which he does it really good. And also, maybe whatever he's telling might not be the same thing which we'll actually do. Say, for example, if there is anything it is interested in and we just put him, but he might not be really as interested as he told, but he'll just go it. So just, you have to let it go as it will.
Yeah, I totally get that. Awesome. We've got the parents' perspective. We'll come back to parents in a while, but I would really like to hear from people who have been diagnosed with ADHD. I think it'll be a very interesting perspective to have now that we've discussed struggles and and benefits. So for the adults with ADHD, maybe we can start with Sai Adanya first in terms of when did you get diagnosed exactly, and how did your life change post diagnosis? I think that'll be a very interesting perspective.
So I got diagnosed in 2020. Um, I mean, I really do empathize with Rajeshwari. I mean, I'm like, I think I was her child, but except minus the hyperactivity part. Like whenever I look at all the moms speaking, I'm just like, my mom has been through all of that. It just makes me empathize with her, makes me say sorry. I'm sorry that I put you through all of this. But yeah, I used to mirror my letters as well. But the reason why whatever Rajeshwari said stayed with me is because she said she was missing her grandparents. Well, I did not have my grandparents. It was just my mom and my dad wasn't around all that much during my childhood. So it was just my mom who was taking care of me. So because of that, I kind of feel like there was nobody around to kind of guide her as well, because she did not have her mom as a child. So that is why I feel like my ADHD had went on for so long undiagnosed. When I used to mirror my words, or when I used to have problem with writing things, she used to just make me write it 30 times, and somehow she used to manage it. When I could not read, she used to read it for me. When I did not write my notes, she used to come to the class at 10:30, breakfast ka break, and she used to take my friends books and write it down. I don't think people taught her that that's not normal, because she did not have a mom. She thought that I'm going to give my child everything. That way she kind of overcompensated and did not understand that my behavior wasn't normal. So that's why it went on undiagnosed for so long. And after the diagnosis, my life had changed 100% for the better, I would say, because all the time I was just I had so many issues with procrastination, with everything. And I used to bug myself, ki, what is wrong with me? I used to write it in my diary. Why cannot I be normal like others? Why cannot I study for so long? And because I had hyper focus, I could not um, I was doing academically okay. It was the thing where teachers say, if only you worked a bit hard. So I never thought that I had a problem, because I did not know what was normal. So, and then I got into med school, and it just gotten so hard to the point where I could not revise anything the day before the exam, because you have to study for at least 6, 7, 8 hours before the exam. So that is when I think I just snapped and had like a very big mental breakdown. And I had breakdowns before. But somehow my mom was somehow supportive. I don't know why she was supportive. If she wasn't, I think I would have gotten diagnosed before. I think that's where I was like, this is not normal, and went to the doctor and got diagnosed. And my life has changed so much. The meds have helped me so much. It just feels very. The first time I took my meds, I just felt like a normal human for the first time ever. It was very, and I really did tell my mom sorry for all the messes I made when I was a child.
That sounds quite thank you, Sai. I mean, that sounds quite emotionally painful, both for you to go through. And when I think of your mother's struggle from a mom's perspective, I can't imagine the kind of stress and the amount of effort she's put in. That's really, putting everything aside to take notes. That was really eye-opening.
Yes, exactly. That was just, I think my executive functioning was her up until I got to like 10th grade. Only because of her, I kind of passed 10th grade, but then things got difficult when she couldn't be my executive function, center of the brain.
Just one question that I had, which is you can just in very short, is if you had been diagnosed as a child, if you had known your diagnosis as a child, do you think how you navigated childhood would have been largely different, or do you any of the trauma that you went through, do you think you could have managed it differently in any way? good or
Yes,
bad?
I definitely beat myself up that my diagnosis had not happened earlier, because if I had gotten diagnosed earlier, I think, there are, academically I would have done better. Apart from that, the thing that I want to say is ki parents, my mom was somebody who was like, yeah, if you're doing academically good, that's okay. But all the other things, taking care of yourself, exercising, all the habits that you're supposed to have, I don't have them as a 25-year-old. And that feels, I feel like I'm a lacking adult. I don't feel like an adult. So all of that, they're very easy to develop as a child. But when you're constantly having to put in so much effort for executive functioning, when you constantly are anxious, when you constantly cannot focus, you cannot develop those habits as a child. But if I had gotten diagnosis, I could have, my life would have been completely different, I think, for the better.
Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
perspective,
you.
Sai Tanya. I would just like to ask Gautam quickly, was your experience similar in terms of, were you also diagnosed as an adult or were you diagnosed as a child? And if so, that's the first question, and then we can get to the next.
Yeah, yeah. No, very similar. I think my diagnosis also was around that time, 2021, something like that. Much later in terms of age, 32 or 33 when I got diagnosed. Yeah, complete shift in how I perceive the world. I I think it's the biggest confirmation that adults are all not always right. So I've always been the person who's been labeled, oh, you have so much potential, if only you're not this lazy, or things like that. And it's frustrating because I'm like, but I'm not lazy. I'm trying. And but yeah, there's nothing to show for all the effort that you're putting. And yeah, more than anything else, I think even people around me trying to convince them about ADHD and all is going to be difficult, or like just making them understand what is ADHD is going to be difficult. But at least to myself, I sort of let go of whatever the additional trauma that I was giving myself, because of not knowing this. And interestingly, my first attempt at getting diagnosed was with Nimans, and there I'm making it a point to tell everyone. There, this is peak COVID also, so like we're all standing in line worrying about getting the infection. But they just outright rejected, saying you don't have. So it also was like another spending a year of trying to collect evidences from my childhood, saying, "Oh no, I reached my school, and then suddenly realization will come. Oh, there's a homework that I will complete today." So these are all very common. So I had to collect these evidences for myself to say that, okay, no, I actually am. I'm not. I'm different. My experiences are not the same as everybody else. So yeah, I think letting like how I view about world, how I view about myself, I think that has been the biggest change. And I'm still sort of feeling the ripple effects of it. It's still so that's what led me to say that okay, maybe maybe doing MBA and like managing projects or people may not be the best idea for me. So yeah, maybe I should try something where my spontaneity is being used and things like that. So yeah, I think I'm still feeling the ripple effects of getting the diagnosis.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, Gautam. That's also an interesting perspective. That line that you said, that it's confirmation that, that knowing that the, it's there is something that you wanted to go and, kind of figure out, and that adults don't always know. And that line that you said, that, you throughout your life, you've had so much potential, unrealized potential. I'm sorry, I'm not even speaking as a parent anymore, because that's the line I've heard all my life. So I don't know, maybe I should. Anyway, but thank you, Gautam. I'd like to ask, I'd like to kind of move it, instead of in a sequential manner, speak to the professionals, and then probably move around, which will open dialogue a little more. So uh, we'll speak to Sakshi. Um, if you could tell me what your experience has been working with adults and children with ADHD? And maybe it'll also help if you can give me slight nuances of the differences between adults and children.
Okay. So over here, I meet lot of parents. So first thing which I get to know from talking that the problem is in the ground level. First of all, start from diagnosis to assessments, counseling. So the process is so not being organized that parents get so shattered that this is something which how this can happen, or it could be my I am guilty about it, that how this thing happened, etc. So half of the time, to counsel them that okay, now it happened, you have to work further on that. There are so many things you can work on. You can work on independent skills, etc. But somewhere that acceptance, awareness is not there. In Bangalore, it's still a better state. I am personally from Uttar Pradesh, and I just came back from there only. I see so many people over there that they just label them that they don't understand. They are mad people. Or in school they say that they are very naughty, they are not listening. So the ultimate thing is that they might scold them, they might hit them. So that is the usual scenario all over. Bangalore is still the better place over here. People are much more aware, people are much more accepting towards all these issues. But when I speak to parents, parents get very shattered. Then they'll be like, I don't know what happened, why this happened. This is sad, but unfortunately, sometimes the families, the husband, they blame the mothers, which is a sad scenario. Definitely, that no, probably because of you this happened, and it breaks my heart because I have come from a joint family, and I see that if there is a family can really help a person to grow better, right? If that kind of support is there, then there are a lot of times we see a lot of changes, a lot of improvements. So that is something which I feel over here, starting from the root level, ground level, there is a problem. So I think we have to fix that first. Breast therapies are definitely ongoing. It's hard for parents also to take it for a longer period of time, that this will be there. This cannot just go away. It's just you can work on the independent skill. You can still lead your life in a proper way. So I keep motivating them. I would like to share that I got this thing because there was a kid who was coming. Now I think he started from 3 years of age. Now he's 10 years old. The mind blowing skill he has, that whichever day you will say, whichever date, sorry, and the year, he will tell you the day without looking at the calendar. So he was so smart. It took very long time for me to convince the parent that he has the skill. You can put him in the math classes, all these Olympiads come and all. But she was so shattered, and she was so upset about the whole fact that he's been diagnosed. You able to hear me? Okay. I think.
We're able to hear you, but now it's gone. It just changed. The timber changed.
Okay, now it's better.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the parent was like, what I should do with his skill of math when he is not able to perform like other kids in the family. Everybody keeps telling me. So that it breaks my heart that he has a skill. You focus on that. Forget about what other people are telling, etc. I know it's very social pressure is something which is there and which is very difficult. I am not in that shoes. I may not be able to comment on that, how the parent is dealing with it. But definitely, if the child has a skill, we should take forward to that. We should encourage and motivate. And therefore, recently only we made it as a talent show, and he had performed. And then mother was very, happy that he could perform in front of everybody. So I think we have to create an opportunities also, be it in a school or be it in a professional this thing, or a parent, anybody. If the opportunity is not there, parent also will not feel motivated about the entire this thing, right? So that's what we tried. We did a Children's Day celebration. We did a talent show where he performed, and people from the audience, they were asking random years 2030, this date, and he's telling all the days correctly. He's doing the mental math immediately. So I think now the mum is in a better this thing that he has skills. He was aware of it, but I understand that for her also it was a little hard to take because the family members were not very supportive. Uh, but yeah, these things we should, if these opportunities can be created, like fashion show, talent show, or any kind of this thing where they can participate, that would be first step to inclusion also, I feel.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective, from the parents' perspective, because I know exactly from a parent's perspective, for me at least, I know where it comes from. Even so-called being from a progressive family and a progressive mindset, we know the kind of because the society is not as accepting yet, so it's quite difficult to kind balance the two. Nikita, I'm sorry, did I just get disconnected?
No, Suhasini, you're very much here.
Sorry, my screen disappeared for a second.
Yeah.
Nikita, if you could tell me if you have any professional advice to individuals with ADHD, what would be the foremost, especially because you come with that unique balance of being both a professional and the caregiving space. Do you have any advice for individuals with ADHD? What are maybe one or two key things that you would like them to remember and take away?
I think the advice would depend very differently for everyone, every individual there. But what I have seen for in terms of kids with ADHD, sometimes parents would be over structuring them, right? Because that's once the parent has gone to an acceptance level, and they have understood that okay, if there's an hyperactivity, they need to manage the child's time, keep them busy, lower the so they overschedule the child, and at the end of it the child is completely either lethargic, or they are just so done with everything. When they come to school the next day, they just want to do whatever they want. And so sometimes that happens, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on them, right? In the long duration, it puts a lot of pressure on them. I think, like for my sister also, that is something that we had done as a family, right? She was very overscheduled, and that was helping her manage her, symptoms up till a certain point, beyond which, we were forcing her to do maybe okay if she liked a little bit of sports, okay, then let her put into everything of sports. So even if it's like little bit of liking is there, we would force her to do a lot of those things, and eventually the child would grow out, but we would force them to be in the same environment. So I think like that forcing of the child is something that we'll have to be very careful about and mindful about, that their strengths, just because they show a little bit of liking towards something doesn't mean that they have to be like masters of that. That can just be something that they like, and that need not be seen as an achievement. That can also be seen as a play, or something like that. So that is something that I've seen across like clients or even personally. In terms of like adults with ADHD, one of the things I am seeing, or even with myself, which I'm seeing, a lot of comorbidities are there with ADHD, right? And that is something in terms of diagnosis, when we were speaking, right? That it's very important for when you're as a child to get the right kind of diagnosis. In terms of like when you're an adult also, to be very aware of your comorbidities would be one key essential things, right? Because when I had gone for the diagnosis, that was told by my psychiatrist that we should first rule out a couple of things to clearly say that okay, this is ADHD, which was also done during my sister's time. And sometimes there are also comorbid things, like there may be depression with ADHD, so your management of symptoms would be quite very very different in that case. So it would be helpful in terms of understanding what sort of comorbidities you have, or if you have or not, rule out those things so that you can also understand yourself better. Because sometimes I've seen that a lot of people have been misdiagnosed with it. In terms of my sister, she was misdiagnosed with depression for over 1.5 years, and the psychiatrist had given her medication for the same, right? And which is like 1.5 years of, whoever has taken medications for depression would know that does a lot to your system internally. And when she was not able to get the right kind of help, because that's not the diagnosis she needed, so that was affecting a lot in terms of her functioning, and she really struggled that time. So as a caregiver, I had to be very careful, and also because I was a professional, so I was not able to, it's very important for me to constantly remind myself that I have to draw a boundary between, trying to help her too much and, maintaining her boundaries, personal boundaries as well. So I had to give her space as well. So in terms of misdiagnosis also, that's something that probably people should be aware of, and maybe they can get second opinions as well before going into something like medication. That would be my, not that you shouldn't take medication, just be a little bit more aware of it, and consult 2-3 people before, maybe you go into it.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Nikita. I would like to go back to the caregivers for people with ADHD, and either Rajeshwari or Sri Lakshmi, either of you could take it up, or maybe both of you could succinctly put it in terms of what thoughts do you have that you could share with society? That is something, from especially from parents of children who've been diagnosed with ADHD. I would just like both of you to give me a quick this thing on what you would like to share with with society. Sri Lakshmi or Rajeshwari, whoever wants could go first.
Yeah, sure. So one thing is it should be understood that one size doesn't fit all. So it's not, you cannot weigh everyone in the same scale. So that is one thing where there is not much awareness, and not essentially all kids with challenges will get, you can get to know that unless they really show it up or anything. Until then, their challenges could be anything to any level. So it needs more empathy and have more compassion. That's something everyone is looking forward, right? So that is, and not being much judgmental as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Rajeshwari, anything that you would want to share?
I agree with her that, having awareness and understanding really does a lot of good, not to the caregiver, but to the child in question. And how I see the difference is that I see a lot of unkindness, judgmental behavior, also sometimes also very punishing behavior from school parents. For instance, if I'd rather give you examples for everybody to understand. So, for instance, there was a skirmish in the playtime during the playtime, and Sarah would have hurled something, maybe a stress ball or something. Now, if you have the understanding that the child is struggling, you will see that act as an outburst, as not able to handle her emotions, and treat her like a child, like an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old, right? And not see the child as doing something intentionally or deliberately to hurt, right? More as a lack of control. Now, what I notice is that the school teachers, the staff, even the the ad hoc staff, people on the playground, the adults, they're very understanding. But problem is, what happens is, I realized it much later when the school would complain. I would like, oh my God, the teachers. I mean, how can the teachers not understand? But problem is that they write mails, they follow up with the school that this kid is a bully. So there's a term for that. She's a bully. She's an unruly kid. She is very ill mannered. My child feels unsafe. So they almost make it like a safeguarding issue. Now, when you have such a thing, number one, what happens is the child gets isolated. So then hardly anybody playing with Sarah. That makes her more upset. She comes back home, and if I tell her that, Sarah, this is how the world is, you need to control, you need to step back when you are very upset, take some deep breaths. What happened? She gets mad because she expects me to understand. And there I am lecturing her or telling her. So initial days, we realize that the lack of compassion and empathy and understanding in the environment does more damage to not just the child but also the parent. Because what happens is, when you're hearing, so if I've gone to a party, a birthday party, a parent comes up and she complains about my child. Now my mood is off. I'm not able to enjoy the party at all. And when I come back home on my way back, or when I'm at home, I'm having a word with my daughter, and she doesn't enjoy that conversation either. So, some of these things, but now, of course, what has happened with me, the good thing is that I have started working on myself. I went for therapy because I realized that I can't change the world. I can't change the environment, but I have to change myself. I have to learn not to get impacted by what I hear from parents and the isolation so it's very funny, adults not speaking to you just because your child has been unkind to another child. They would stop saying hello to you. So Sarah is noticing that she's being, isolated. So is her mummy and daddy getting isolated also. So now what we do is we made a game out of it. Like, if you talk, then I talk. If you don't, then I just smile and walk away. But we are not going to be, unkind to another person. That is not how we do. So we are also do a lot of role plays at home, because she forgets how to. So when the moment she is under pressure, she is, upset. Problem is that she can physically hurt you, she can verbally hurt you, and say the most unkind things. So now what we do is at home, without telling her, we sort of create. So we pretend to be her playmates, we pretend to be her peers, and say something not nice, maybe not unkind, but something not nice. Oh, you're such a weirdo. And then we wait for reaction. So we are almost role playing at home and doing it as a practice, so that in real time she is able to, this practice helps her behave in a more desired manner. And it has really helped. So and what happens, it's a very funny thing, it's like the moment the children with ADHD start experiencing small wins, which I think Nikita or Sakshi mentioned, the confidence increases. And when the confidence increases, it has a very positive snowball effect. Then there is more motivation for them to act in a more desired manner. So these small wins you have to sort of create. And I think it was Sai or Nikita, Sakshi mentioned about this win. I just want to just mention a point that Sarah's superpower is singing and creativity. Now, I actually spoke to the school and said, can you create an event or something that where Sarah is able to showcase, because all day she gets told off. Everybody, she gets told off. It's a very, I mean, I don't want to sound very emotional, but it's so difficult for a child to be told that you're no good, you're made to feel that you're worthless, you're useless, and you're just an ill-mannered, rude brat. So, so when they had this choir, and she joins the choir club there, attends the choir club. When this event happened, she got a lot of applause for her singing. That really sort of helped her do better in her studies, and the number of incidents came down. And when there was a local talent show, and there were other schools and other children competing, and there when she stood third, the school one didn't do much good because somehow she felt it was rigged. And she's also very bright, so you cannot make a fool out of her. So that sort of didn't do very well. But the local talent show that happened, where uh, the judging happened by West End stars, and there was none from her school that judged her. I think that really helped her gain confidence. She had given up music, she had given up practicing. She's gone back to learning music again because she's realized that, and she's in a state of flow when she's singing. That's when she is hyper focused, whether it's art or it's music. And I have also noticed that music, good sleep, good nutrition, all of these together, they really help her have a more positive day, compared to if you take away these things, if there's little physical exercise, poor sleep. So we are able to anticipate that there could be trouble. So either I don't send her to school so that there is no incident of that sort, because the problem is not with the incident, problem is the repercussion of that. The moment she gets a consequence, the moment she gets told off, the moment she gets isolated, we are back to square one. So all the progress that we have made, we lose it in a day. So therefore we have also become learned to, so it's okay to miss half a day of school or a day of school, but we will not send her when she is not in the right frame of, I mean, I won't say right frame of, but she's maybe grumpy or she's cranky or any of those things. Yeah.
Absolutely, Rajesh.
And
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And to Sai's thing about this early diagnosis, I feel that maybe in a layman's language, I'm not an expert, but how I see it as, if you know that you're struggling, probably if you feel that you're tired and you're feeling fatigued, but you do not know what is the reason. So when you get your blood work, when you know what it is, you're able to support yourself with a supplement or with a particular special diet. I feel a diagnosis does that, that it doesn't change a situation really, but it helps you support. So now that we know my daughter's brain works a little differently, we're able to support her better. We are able to anticipate things better. We're able to, bring down those, situations better, which are sometimes very difficult. Like it's almost confrontational. And now that she's turning 10, I'm also noticing that she probably has hormonal changes. There's a lot of pushback.
Yes.
Those we are able to. So we are letting go of, we know which battles to pick and which ones to just ignore.
Right.
Yeah, those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajeshwari. We have a lot of audience questions. We'll get to them. And sorry to have cut you short if you had anything more to
Not
share.
at all. No, I'm done. Thank you.
I know I'm the moderator, but I just wanted to jump in because it rang such a note with me, going through the social isolation, both for your child and for the parent, and the amount of struggles that you face when you see your child crying, saying, why won't they play with me? Yeah, I've been through all of that. I know exactly how it feels, and with the labels, because oh, he's mental, oh, you don't play with him, because even parents don't understand where that comes from. So I know exactly the struggle. Thank you for sharing, Rajeshwari. We'll go to a few audience questions now. The audience questions, lots of them, but let's start with the adults with ADHD. One very important question has come from the audience, which is how to reach selection of course subjects in your senior secondary education, way ahead for the degree. Either Gautam or Sai, if you, Dhanya, sorry, Sai Dhanya, if you wanted to kind of pitch in with maybe an answer as to how you chose where you wanted to focus in your education. Maybe Sai Dhanya, you could take that.
Hi. I've always kind of wanted to do this. I always knew I was interested in biology. So, I think it depends on your child's interest, whatever subject that they want to pursue. But then, apart from that, your ADHD also weighs in into what you want to do with your life. I think because if I had known that I had ADHD before getting into med school, I wouldn't have joined med school, because I think it's a bit it's a lot of pressure on myself, which I wouldn't have taken. That is something to be aware of. I think to be aware of ADHD and your child's interests.
Thank you, Tanya. Yes, Gautam, you want to add something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one bit basically, which is at least to my ADHD type, I think I figured that I am good where I have to perform on the spot. But if there is a lot of historic knowledge that I have to have, or like things like that, then I'm struggling a little more. Or like if I have to plan for like even just planning for the next week is just such a struggle. So maybe less of things where you have to manage or you take care of other things, and more of where you have to perform. Those will be probably interesting. Yeah, that's one addition.
Thank you,
But yeah,
Gautam.
interest over everything else.
Yes. One question which I think both for parents and for the professionals from the audience, which is, and maybe Sri Lakshmi and Nikita, you can answer this, which is, how do you think schools can support parents better? Maybe Sri Lakshmi, you go first.
Yeah. So what we have done is we have went and explained to the school with his report and asking them for some support, like how they can help it. So when they say he's getting really emotional or something, one teacher whom he could trust. So that's what we have told him also, to go and talk to the teacher whom he really willing to and feels like a moral support, and discuss that with them. And with the teachers or the school, I know it is really not possible until everyone have this understanding. So it's really tough to make them understand in the school perspective. And the other part is where he's having really challenges. So we have dropped the expectation of him finishing his school class works or anything. We just consider an exam, and whatever subjects he really likes it, we just try to see that one. And we have gotten some extra time to support. And we have also asked the teacher to bring back to the focus, like prompting him every 15 minutes, so that helps him. So that actually really work. But whatever we do, it's only that last half an hour or 45 minutes where they really get that and just keep going. But this is something, actually make them feel internally motivated. Okay, see, because they have seen my son have seen the marks that has coming in, and everyone has said like he has done really good. So this time, the same thing, like how we can get the support, seeing what they need. So being a keen observer, understanding their real needs. So we should be having a lot of patience and introspection in doing the observing our child actually more. That really helps when it comes to the school.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. Nikita, would you also like to take that, please?
Yeah, so I think like if the school supported a lot more, I think our role would be much less as professionals. Half the battle would be won at school only. For our kids, like it's very important for the school to understand the and not label them as naughty kids and okay, just being rude to them. And in some places, I have seen that our kids like really the teachers really take it on their ego with the things that our kids say, which maybe is something that they would need to understand that that's out of their control and that they are not and probably it's impulsive rather than just being outrightly rude, or they are doing it sometimes. I would agree that they do it knowingly, but maybe how to regulate it is something that they would need to stick to being an adult and not taking it on their ego and not come to like the child's level, just be on the adult's level and deal it in that transaction mode. That is something. Another thing is with respect to giving them breaks, or with respect to allowing them to have movement. That is a major thing that we struggle when we are negotiating with schools. That is just something that just does not sit well with most of the schools, and we are constantly bargaining for it. A lot of times when inside shadow teachers are going with the child, right, so they literally have to like really bargain and tell them that no, the child needs this kind of a break, and they need it for this purpose. So that is something that probably something, even if it's something like moving around in the class and not even in the corridor or something, that could be inculcated in the school itself, and not seen as not stick to the traditional timings as to like sitting for a 40 minutes period. If that is something they need to take a 5 minutes break, come back, that is some an accommodation that should be given to them, because they need that for their better functioning, right? And in terms of like their capacity to work as well, right, the expectation that they need to work on the same pace as the other kids is something which is very difficult for them to maintain. Some of the times I've seen that our kids, they do the work like maybe all together in 5 minutes, but they wouldn't do it throughout that 40-minute 1 hour period, right? And which really disturbs the teacher, that why aren't they doing the work with the others? But they would finish it, whether it's in school or getting back at home. So I think like little bit of adjusting to the child's routine, rather than making them stick to what the other kids are doing, may provide some relief to the child, and that way they would be even more interested to do the work, right, if they're not forced. Yeah.
So quickly, one point I just want to add here. What I found out is like kids are going to school for friends and to have fun, but definitely for not for studying. So I think if what I do is like I just little bit ease out the pressure on the studies, where I can compensate on the other time by pulling them out of the school, like taking a break or 1 or 2 days a week actually really helps them to go low, like go better on the terms.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. I think there are a lot of questions for adults who have been diagnosed. So I'm going to open the floor to the adults and whoever wants to take it. But also just do keep in mind that we're running over time, but the audience really wants these questions answered. So if you can, this is specifically for the adults. Uh, have medicines helped you? I know, Sai Dhanya, you said medication helped you tremendously. You felt normal. So maybe Gautam, if you can tell me if medication helped you, and also for both of you, or maybe Gautam, you can say what helps, because it's a large, the question is what helps people with ADHD handle their day-to-day functioning. So if either of you could just quickly take, both of you could quickly take that, but Gautam specifically, do medicines help you in managing ADHD?
Yeah, definitely. I think medicines are not sufficient, but it's a necessary thing to have. At least for me, at this point of life, they give some sort of support towards emotional regulation, towards focusing, etc., etc. So yeah, that's one. Could you repeat the second question?
Having to find the unmute button. Sorry. Yeah. So the second question is, how do you manage your day-to-day life?
Okay. Million dollar question. I think that's the struggle that we're still going through. I'm still going through, at least. There's some. I think I've started laying some boundaries. I think that's the first and foremost thing to do, which is I still have like really. I'm struggling with like thousands of ideas are there. All of them seem to be exciting when I'm narrating to other people. Now, which one to take on? Like the eternal ADHD challenge, I guess. So yeah, I think I've started. So I think earlier I've not dealt with some of these boundaries, like how much time can I spend, how much money do I have that I can spend on these, what goals are necessary that are there by the circumstance, etc. So dealing with all of those, dealing with the emotional component that has that has not been dealt with because of having ADHD for so long. All of these are, I think, the foundations on which you build the other things. People directly go to routines and things like that. Those aren't helpful, actually. If you jump into it initially, I think these foundations need to happen. Yeah, that apart, I think one hack that has worked for me is doing it with other people. Finding somebody who has a little more control, emotional control, or little more planning capabilities. Those are really helpful. So right now, people are really forcing me to, or at least heavily suggesting me to stick to one thing. I'm not able to. I still have like too many ideas. So the shortcut I'm taking is basically trying to do some of those ideas, at least with partners who can take on some of these organizing burden, like burden to plan, to forecast, things like that. Yeah, I think those are like, apart from the usual, we should plan on a weekly basis, spend a lot more time with nature. uh, Finances, you have certain rules around them, etc. Apart from those, these are the other things that I've been thinking about.
If I can quickly add to that, very quickly. So ADHD is.
Sorry, just 1 second, because
Yes.
there's another question that ties into exactly what you're
Yes,
saying.
yes,
I thought I'll club those two. There's someone else who has asked a very similar question, but slightly more elaborately. So in your day-to-day life, their question specifically is, how does someone with ADHD keep or stick, to routines, habits, hobbies, projects, passionate endeavors without boredom, or like Gautam said, the constant need to explore something new. So the person asked himself, or themselves have simplified the question, saying in simpler words, how can one maintain discipline as a neurodivergent person? I thought you tied in beautifully, so I thought I'll interrupt you. Sorry for that. And just
No, it's okay. So ADHD is two things, right? One is lack of dopamine and one is executive functioning. So the meds will take care of the dopamine, but the executive functioning part, that you have to do, which is very difficult. So that's where I think all the other things like therapy, getting an ADHD coach, and all of these things help, and doing it with somebody, having a body double, all of these things help with the executive functioning part of it, apart from good nutrition and all of that are also gonna help. But the thing that I want to say is ki the one thing that is gonna work today, it's not the same thing will not work tomorrow. So there has to be like a bunch of things that you need to uh, do, because the same thing will not work forever as well. Apart from that, how to stay disciplined, that's $1 million question. I am not disciplined. I don't even feel like an adult. But the thing that I've discovered is that you start with small changes. People have said ripple effect and snowball effect. So the one small change to be disciplined, that will last for a long time. Apart from that, sticking to things is the dumbest things that you think that will not work are gonna work. For example, for me, the way that I stick to things is by like making it external. So for example, you can put like a cup and fill it with some sort of a pebble or something every time you accomplish this tasks. Or you can have like a coloring book in which you color one part of the thing every time you finish one part of a big task that you need to do in a week or in a month. That way, when you have like a physical reward for when you are finishing the task. I mean, there you could do versions of this. I'm not saying this will work for everybody, but that
One
has helped me.
one other trick that not trick that I'm thinking is I just let go of anything that I'm not really interested in. Right, there are certain key passions that I have, and because I'm having those passions, I've also signed up for fellowships or like projects with interesting people, etc. Because I'm naturally exploring that topic more and more, not from a perspective of I need to be disciplined and do it every day, but more from very ADHD friendly perspective of like it's a super interesting topic. It's very curious. I'm very curious about it. So let me dive in. Right. Yeah, that's one other strategy.
Saidhanya, thanks, Gautam. Saidhanya, there's a follow-up question from the audience about the ADHD coach. Could you please elaborate about ADHD coach and?
So I got myself an ADHD coach, and that has been really helpful to understand where my patterns lie. So you can definitely get an ADHD coach, and in India there are not a lot of them, but you can definitely try finding some occupational coach or life coach to understand where you're going wrong, to understand all of that. And that can be really life changing and helpful, because every week when you go to them, and they give you some sort of a target, you kind of feel like you should not disappoint this person who you're really somehow attached to. I think that kind of helps.
So you get like what we do, we get an accountability partner, right?
Yes, an accountability partner, but in more sort of a very professional way, somebody who understands your patterns and where you go wrong. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Saidhanya. There is a lot of questions. There is a second-year undergraduate student, a young adult with a diagnosis of ADHD, Surya, who's asked this question. He said, how can I be calm even during stressful times? Specifically, like deadline for college submissions, processing feedback, time-bound actions. Some of this you have answered in your day-to-day, but I think how can I be calm during stressful times? That is definitely something that would help us understand.
I'm calm only in stressful times. How that's a typical ADHD superpower, right? Like I think like Hulk says, the secret is to always be stressed. I mean, please don't take this advice. It's just like a light heart. I think at least for me, hyperfocus kicks in. At least if I know that there is some level of achievability. If not, yes. If not, then I phone a friend. If not, I take the help of somebody else and we freak out together. Yeah.
So for me, the thing that has helped, I'll be very quick here. Every time right before the exam, I freak out because I cannot study, I cannot revise everything in one day. So identifying that pattern, with ADHD, it will happen over and over again, but we'll have no self-awareness of that this thing keeps happening. So being aware of that and planning ahead for that, like say if you have PMS right before an important exam, planning ahead oh yeah, these are the things that I can do when things go wrong. I think that can be very helpful.
Thanks, Saidhanya. That really helps, and of course, mess hit home, so you know exactly where.
Yeah.
One last question for adults with ADHD. Even a parent can step in if you have insight there, or even the professionals, which is what career prospects exist for individuals with ADHD? Maybe we start again with the adults diagnosed because you're in that space and you can talk about it. Uh,
So career, I think for me, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, because for me it was just like somehow it has happened. But I think something where there is not a lot of toxicity, there is not a lot of judgment from people. There is not a lot. I think that would be my answer. But then again, I'm not sure.
Thanks, Aidanya.
Yeah.
Any one of the professionals who want to give an insight into career options for people with ADHD?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this resonates with everybody or not. But recently I have done my certification in yoga, and I started teaching yoga to all the kids who've been diagnosed. So one of the kid who was 14, like not kid, I would say teenage. He is 14 years of age, and he felt very good after doing, regular yoga and breathing exercises. So I kept it very simple that, for 3 counts only, because he couldn't stay for a very long period of time. So I said, let's start with 3 counts and then we will see. So now it's a time that he can actually stretch it for 10 counts. And that's what he said, was that my body was feeling very relaxed. I was very calm, etc. I want to pursue this as a career. So could be because he is liking it, but this could be one of the thing if it can be uh, taught properly to the kids or the adults. They can actually, overcome their stress or anxiety. Even for all of us, it's really helpful, especially the breathing exercises. I'm not talking about the yoga poses and all, but he actually got an interest also to do those poses, because then he said that my body feels stretching over. When I stretch, I feel very good about it, or the entire stress is going away. So yeah, that could be one of the options which he said about the yoga and meditation.
Thank you.
Mindfulness and body scanning meditation, those are also the two things that I would add to that. They really, really help whenever
Yes.
somebody's stressed.
Thanks, Saidanya. Thanks, Sakshi. I think Nikita also has something to say. Nikita, quickly, you have thoughts on career
Yeah,
options?
I'll just quickly, but I don't really think that there is one career for individuals with ADHD, because now I'm meeting, in all, because of personal or professional reasons, I'm meeting individuals from all across different careers. And I don't think it's a specific career that they need to go to, because we're talking about inclusion and everything, right? So I think in all careers, they can really, really do well. It's just a matter of the understanding and how we have been speaking about the environment, and because we are talking about like that, they can use their strengths, and definitely all ADHD individuals have different strengths, so they can definitely do well in all careers, and we need not think that they wouldn't fit into one career or not. So I think they would do well in all careers.
I think I agree with you, Nikita, in the sense that I see multiple strengths in your child, and I think a combination of interests, strengths, and giving them the coping mechanisms to deal with challenges would probably give them an access to a wide array of career options. So,
They may need the caregiver to, constantly keep them in that career. That is a different point. But yeah, I think they can do well in all careers.
I agree.
Yeah.
There are two last questions from the audience, and one which I would like each of the panelists to give quick thoughts on. There is one question from the audience that asks if an adult self-diagnoses themselves as having ADHD, is seeking formal diagnosis a good idea? I'd like to answer this because, after my child was diagnosed, both my spouse and I, we looked at our child, and then we looked back at our childhood, and there's a lot of trauma that came after the service, because we said, oh, we had the same problem, oh, we had the same problem. And so we went back to my child's psychiatrist, and then we asked them, we identify so much with the traits that my child has. um, does it make sense for us to go in for diagnosis and therapy ourselves? And it was very interesting what the psychiatrist told us, which was that they said, see, it's an issue, that everyone has growing up. Eventually, everybody learns to find their place in society, right? Getting the diagnosis at that point of time will only help you kind of place yourself where you are in that spectrum. So if you have, their answer was very clear. They said if you have issues functioning in your day-to-day life, if it is impacting your function, please go and get yourself diagnosed, so it will help you function better. If your coping tools are working just fine for you, then you really don't need to disturb that. If you found a formula that works for you, please stick to it. If you're not able to function, please go seek a diagnosis. That is something that my son's psychiatrist told us as adults. That is, and I think it made a lot of sense, because for me and my spouse, it was very clear. I've managed to find my space. I don't want to go in for diagnosis, but my husband struggles with executive function, and he definitely wants to go and figure out if a diagnosis will help him. So there are different attitudes to it, and that's what the psychiatrist said. The last question again is for the adults with ADHD, which is how to help them. I'm assuming them means people who have been diagnosed with ADHD, especially children, how to help them make friends and be social. Gautam, would you like to take that first? And then Saidhanya, if you have any thoughts, you could add to that as well.
Maybe I'll let Sai answer this. I still have to think about it.
Okay. Saidhanya, do you want to take that?
And it is really hard for me to make friends as well. But the thing is, we do end up getting RSD a lot. So I think that is something if the parents could teach the kid, it's not actual rejection, it's RSD, that would help. But apart from that, um, I'm not saying that you should only hang out with kids who have ADHD, but if you can find support groups where kids with ADHD are present, I think that will be a very good thing, because people with ADHD can really empathize with people who have ADHD, and that will make a good friendship.
Just one question: what is RSD?
It's rejection sensitive dysphoria, where it's not perceived rejection, but it's not actual rejection, but you perceive rejection and you feel rejected and you get anxious over it. Like somebody doesn't reply to you instantly, you think that, oh my god, this person is not replying, so I must have done something, and then you think over it over and over again.
Thanks. It's a new term I learned today.
Yes. Yeah, maybe just a couple of things to add. One is, like Sai said, looking back, some of my friends have, or like wherever I have been friends longest, have been with neurodivergent people, right? Which is very surprising how I identified it without even realizing.
That is so true, because I have experienced it in my life as well. The people that I'm surrounded with, I'm like, oh, you have ADHD, because at some point it feels like you don't know whether you're projecting or whether it's actually true.
Yeah, so maybe like Sai says, ADHD communities might be a really good idea. The second idea is also follow the interests, right? Like if the ADHD person is interested in something, and maybe the interest changes in in 3 months or 4 months, but interest-based communities are also super useful, I guess. Not just for ADHD, with life in general. I think because both of you have something shared, there is a lot more chance for you to connect and break some barriers, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks, Gautam. One last question, and if all the panelists can give their quick view on that, that would be very helpful. If you could, areas that you feel should be taken up for research that would, help across stakeholders, caregivers, professionals, people with ADHD in the long run. If you have anything that you think should be researched more into, just a quick check-in from everybody.
I have one. Maybe I can go.
Sure.
I'm really fascinated by ADHD and sense of justice. It seems like everywhere I go, I raise voice, and sometimes not in the best way also. about this. So, what is this obsession with needing the world to be fair, right? And what does it have to be? I mean, what relationship does it have with dopamine deficiency? And can we make use of it? Maybe encourage ADHD people in maybe in as lawyers or as judges or things like that. It's a very interesting thought.
Absolutely. Very, very interesting, come to think of it, because it resounds so much across people that I've spoken to. Maybe we can go in that order, then the first the adults, then the caregivers, then the parents. Sai Dhanya, would you like to?
I think women, for women it can be very different ADHD. So people, I think they need to do a lot of research in women and ADHD. Apart from that, medication, that the long term side effects of medication and even better medication, I think that would be cool.
Thank you, Sai Dhanya. And then Sakshi, your thoughts on areas of research that would need to be looked into? Nikita, why don't you go first?
Hello?
Okay, Sakshi, yes, please.
Yeah. Research part, as I said, the ground level itself is a difficulty. So maybe when the parents conceive, that time itself, I think they can do counseling over there also about everything, that how they should, if I got the question right. Yeah. So from the ground level itself, I think all the counseling should have happened.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. Nikita, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think everyone has wonderfully covered all the research topics. But in terms of children, one of the things that I was thinking of researching, like I'm very interested to know, is like how would a child with ADHD who is growing up in a least restrictive environment do better than someone who's growing up in a most restrictive environment or moderate restrictive environment, whether the environment is school, home, or whatever the environment of the child is. That is in terms of children. In terms of adults, because now I understand that a lot of adults are using substance to cope up with their ADHD symptoms, right? And probably they sometimes they do understand. A lot of them, they have done their own research about it and they know how to moderate it. But some of them, they do not know what kind of after effects it would place. So that is something that I think we don't have. We have none of the research in India, and I think abroad also it's maybe like a no topic. So I think that is something that could be an interesting thing to look at.
Oh, I so agree with you, Nikita, because there is a lot in alternative medicine. So yes, I absolutely with all of you actually. Rajeshwari and Sri Lakshmi, one of you and followed by the other, if you could talk about one area that you think more research is needed in.
I would really be interested to know that when we say that, that we're told that the executive function of the prefrontal cortex is something doesn't work as it should work I hate the word normally, in another regular person. So what could be? Could it be because of a brain injury? Could it be? Right now, we know that there are many factors that could be, but there's no pinpointing. We really do not know. Also, the socioeconomic burden of it all, right? So there's a privilege to it, in the sense that what about kids who do not have access, parents who are not aware? So, this research, like how much of the role of a family, caregiver, etc., environment has to play. Right now, we are just, I think a lot of it is also very anecdotal, very sort of, there's no really deep research into it as to how much, what role it plays, what sort of, like what Sai's mentioned, that you can have medication to really control your dopamine, but what about your executive function? Because that's such an important thing to navigate in life, I mean, and work in society. So those are some of the things I feel that needs more deeper research into the whys of it, and how to sort of, once you get into the whys of it, then it's easier to figure out how to deal with it, or what can be the way to manage these better.
Absolutely, Rajeshwari. And
Started.
Sri Lakshmi, do you have anything about your thoughts on any area of research? Sri Lakshmi? Yeah, I don't think maybe she's stepped away for a bit. I think the only I will like to hand the floor over to Chitra to kind of close this session. It's been so interesting hearing everybody's perspectives from across the spectrum of people who are involved with ADHD. I think the only thing we'll need is children's perspectives where they know of their diagnosis next. That will be a very interesting perspective. A reminder that there is a feedback form link shared on the chat to please fill that up. It will help everyone in All Inclusive kind of look at these sessions better. And I think the one area I want to look at in terms of research, I would really appreciate if neurodivergent is a new neurotypical. There is some interesting papers around how this is an evolution of the brain to keep up with the information overload. Of course, I've only done research on ADHD. I've not looked at other areas of neurodivergence, but specifically to ADHD, I know there is some preliminary research going on that says this could be the new neurotypical because of the amount of information, and society just hasn't caught up to how to function with the speed of the brain and the way it moves and their strengths. But that's it. That's what I thought will be very interesting to look at. Chitra, all over to you. Thank you so much for letting me moderate. It's been very eye-opening for me.
Thank you so much, Suhasini. Thank you, all the panelists. The adults, I think, have been bombarded with questions. Thank you to Sri Lakshmi and Rajeshwari. And thank you to Nikita and Sakshi. And by the way, there are many more questions, and we are going to reach out to all of you to get them answered because we couldn't take up all the questions. And thank you for to the audience, big time. Please do I'm requesting again, please do fill out the form because we would really like to improve, and we want, if people want to go in deeper, we would be very happy to take up, have another session which goes deeper, because ADHD is not discussed as much as it should be. And your feedback form will be really, really helpful. And of course, Suhasini, thank you for doing such a brilliant job of moderating. And thank you, everybody. Please do fill in the forms before you leave. And yeah, what else do I have to say? Thank you for being such a wonderful audience, sending across like questions one after the other. So, and thank you to Meghna, my team member
Yes.
from ICE, who has been doing a lot of back of the scene work, which has helped us to get this going. And yes, the whole thing will be uploaded on YouTube, like it was live streamed on YouTube. So if somebody wants to go back and catch it again, please feel free to. And thank you, everybody. If anybody wants to raise anything else, please do let me know. Anything that we need to do, Meghna?
No, that's about it. So we'll share the link again and the form via email if you've registered with us as well. So in case you missed it out in the chat, we'll do that. And if you have any other questions, you can email it to us and we'll be happy to answer your queries. Yeah.
And one last thing, I would request all the panelists to stay back for 2 more minutes. I know we've crossed like time limits like anything, but I just couldn't like just cut short the conversation because the questions were quite interesting also. So thank you, everybody.
Chitra, just one request from me.
Yeah.
This was so interesting. The dialogue, it's not talked about, like you said, it's not talked about nearly enough. You have a huge number of people who have signed up for this conversation. And since you're working in that space, if people give their consent to, if you could create a community where this conversation doesn't have to be in a formal space, but it can go on, that dialogue opens up, other people can come into the dialogue, create community, create conversation. I think it would be very helpful.
We can definitely look at that, but we would definitely need all your help because managing communities are not easy. And yeah, where all the stakeholders are there, because sometimes the the weight goes one side or the other, and then it becomes one-sided. The conversation becomes one-sided, which shouldn't happen, because all stakeholders need to be heard. Only then the people we are trying to support will get the support they need and things will move. So, but yeah, definitely we can look forward, look at it, and yeah, would request everybody's help. Thank you, Suhasini, for that.